I'm delighted to be here, and I thank you to Brand and to Dr. Cockerell for inviting me to speak to this medical group. The topic of the conversation today is leadership in the 21st century, and what I'm going to claim throughout this is that most of what you will experience when you get into business and get into practice, you will find that most of the leadership skills, most of the leadership practices you find are very industrial age leadership styles from the 20th century. My business I started in this business 12 years ago. Took a very circuitous route. I'm in the executive coaching, business advisory, and leadership coaching world, and but I was the managing partner of a commercial real estate firm in Dallas, Texas, that had 375 offices in the world. And so as I went on that, started serving as on that board of directors, each person on that board had a responsibility to some part of the business in the world. The types of real estate, which you'll hear from other experts in this business symposium, we'll talk about real estate, but you've got industrial real estate, you have retail real estate, you have office real estate, you have investment sales and leasing and all of those things. So I was the managing partner in Dallas, Texas, but I was kind of thrown a curveball. They asked me to serve. This would have been 2003. To actually lead this company, our company that was in 39 countries, I believe, at that time. They asked me to lead the development of a learning university. Well, here I am, a commercial real estate broker by training, and they've asked me to build a learning university. And so a lot of great consultants back in 2002 and 2003 were interested in knowing us. They wanted big assignments, and so the Korn Ferries and the Stanfords and the Cal Berkeleys and all of those organizations, even the big consultants like Accenture and Bain, they wanted to know us, and so they started pressing us. We chose several systems to train throughout. The name of the company was Colliers International, and so I just had the great fortune of learning how to become a great learner. You as doctors, that's been part of your journey. A big part of your journey is to be a learner. And I started learning, became a learner probably 20 something years ago. But my business has all been around understanding how to make companies thrive, how to make people's individual careers thrive. Every company needs a playbook. Every company needs a playbook, and every career needs a playbook. And so I believe that great careers and great playbooks start with how we treat others. And that is really central to 21st century leadership. You'll find that a lot of people will tell you that the skills we need in the 21st century are all the soft skills: emotional intelligence, emotional control, empathy, self-awareness, and strong communication. And we start with all of that, and we talk about how we take care of people first and consider others. And I think it might be a wonderful set of tools for you to have in your practice day to day. So I'll jump right in and talk about one of the primary systems we chose is a system called Market Force. And as this slide represents, it's a system, it's a business execution system, but it's for unlocking breakthrough performance in your business. It was any kind of breakthrough, any kind of performance in your business needs to start with mindset. And mindset, the topic of mindset, is where I spend a lot of time with my individual clients on the beginning of assignments, understanding what they believe, because our thoughts and our beliefs lead to our actions, and our actions lead to our results. But most of those actions we take on a day-to-day basis are habitual. And so this quote by Henry Ford, whether you believe you can do something or whether you believe you cannot, you're absolutely right. And so that's just a reference to mindset, the understanding that mindset can throw off anything we're trying to do in business. And so we're going to start with that. And then the next slide here, when did we stop having fun in business? Or even better, when did it become okay in business to stop having fun? The founder of Market Force, the man who created the intellectual property, was hanging out with a lot of his PhD friends in the neuroscience department at USC. He was getting his doctorate in psychology, and he was hung out with a lot of futuristic thinkers, and he was trying to write his thesis, trying to decide what his thesis topic should be. And he recalled when he was very, very young, maybe 4 or 5 years old, their family lived next door to a grade school, and he took his dog and he walked up to the grade school, and he noticed kids playing on a playground. They were out there running, they were throwing things, they were riding on whatever the equipment was out there. That some, maybe boys were wrestling, maybe they were throwing balls, maybe little girls were doing running and having fun with their friends, or doing whatever they wanted to do. They were really free to go have fun and do those things. But he recalled that when the bell rang and a lady walked out or the man walked out and made them stand in line and get in line to walk inside the building, he noticed that their demeanor had completely changed. And so you had to spit out your gum, you had to quit talking, you had to get in line, you had to conform, and you marched into the building. And that was his recollection. And so he came up with the title for his dissertation, as the title was Bad Things Happen Inside Buildings. And that at a very young formative age, we began to learn that business was not going to be fun, that when we are organized to learn something, and y'all are everybody on this call is probably an extraordinary learner, but everybody is not. When we're pushed to learn, when we're pressed to learn, a lot of times the fun goes away. And so he not only wrote his thesis, Bad Things Happen Inside Buildings, and that we've been trained and programmed that way for a long time, that he wanted to build a business execution system that would bring the fun back into business, or into business. I like this. Obviously, on most of you on this probably don't remember the Beatles, but this quote is by John Lennon, probably considered one of the deepest of the Beatles. It said, "When I went to school, they asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I wrote happy. They told me I didn't understand the assignment, and I told them they didn't understand life." So it was just a reference to, this is a reference to, if you want to use Market Force in your business, if you want to have your people trained in Market Force, you're going to experience more lightness, less pressure, and more fun on a day-to-day in your business. The tools that I give in my Market Force training are tools designed to eliminate suffering and create prosperity. And you might wonder why I use the term suffering. You'll learn in a minute why I'm talking about the word suffering. But many people, and you'll find this when you get into your day-to-day practice, many people are suffering at work. And our definition, to go a little bit further, our definition of prosperity is equal parts wealth and wisdom. We want to give you as much wisdom about other people and how to work around other people and lower friction for other people. And we'd like for that to create an abundance of money for you by doing that. The business execution system has 3 basic processes, and you'll see that the first piece is reducing friction in the business. Most commercially driven businesses, the bosses start with commercial success. How much money are we going to make? How much bigger are we going to get? More. You'll notice that this starts with, how do we reduce friction amongst ourselves, and then increase our effectiveness, and then accelerate our performance. So that's the perspective. That's the way we go about training Market Force. A business what is a business? A business is a people thing. It's to be a business expert, you need to be an expert in people. There's two things to know about people. There's no cure, which I'm glad I'm talking to doctors. So you create cures every day, but there's no real cure for the human condition. But the second one is I would have never dreamed is the truth, and that is we can make people predictable to you. If you learn market force and you learn how to predict the behavior of other people, then you can treat those people in a way that reduces the pressure that's on them. And that does what I said earlier. It eliminates suffering. The more suffering you can remove in business these days, with all the change, all the disruption that goes on day to day, even in your field, the medical field, there's just so much disruption that goes on day to day. And so we want people to become predictable to you. And that's what I'm after a lot of times with my clients, is to help my clients have other people's behaviors predictable for them. Market force is a human performance technology. And we trademarked and the way we would do that is to upgrade your humanware. Most of the technology's there, most of the systems are there. It's the humans that need the upgrade. That's where most of the upgrade needs to come. I'll ask you this question. Are people good? What are they good for? What is a person good for? Well, basically, they're good at three things. They're good for three things. Even all things we do can be categorized in these three areas. Humanly, we are created to come together. We're social animals. So we are designed to come together as a species. When we come together, then we coordinate action in some fashion. Brand is coordinating action right now for these presentations to be in a day-long workshop. That's coordination of action. Corporate America calls that collaboration. But people coordinate action together. That's what we call it. And then we produce a new and different future. But that happens in every aspect of our lives. We get set up on a blind date, coming together. We date for a while, coordinate action. We get married. We come together. We come together in marriage. We coordinate action. We have sex. We have a child. Now we've got a family. This happens in almost everything we do day to day, coming together, coordinating action, and producing a different future. It's that one in the middle, the coordinating action, that people really tend to struggle with the most. We get people to work better together. We want them to make more money, and we want them to have more fun in business, because business is not a life and death endeavor. Business is a game for identity, and I'm going to explain what a game for identity really means here in a minute. We're going to focus in three areas. Market force gives you great communication skills. It helps you with interpersonal dynamics, because it actually gives you scripts on how you should treat different people based on the way you predict they'll react to pressure. And then how we would coordinate action in a faster way, which is really most of the commercial leaders of business just want business to happen faster. It's just faster seems to be what everybody's requiring these days. And so I obviously have claimed that we can make people somewhat predictable for you if you learn market force. And the reason we can is because pressure, when it hits humans, we have all these ways pressure hits us. Maybe we can't pay our mortgage. Maybe a tree has fallen on our house. Maybe our child has some addiction. Maybe I haven't passed the different exams to get through my residency the way I need to. Maybe whoever I report to, my supervising doctors, maybe I don't get along with them. All these pressures that hit a human being, they hit everybody in almost every kind of job that we have on a day-to-day basis. But humans are the only species that deal with two different types of pressure. Actual pressure, we'll just call that life and death. And so for the most part, we have conquered the life and death issue that cavemen running from saber-toothed tigers had. They had a big problem of survival, but basically in society today, especially because of the medical field, I would say we've solved the life and death situation for the most part. But perceived pressure is identity pressure. And that's what we're all here in business doing on a day-to-day basis, is managing our own identity. But people get these two confused. Here I am talking to doctors, but I'm about to talk about neuroscience, and it's about understanding that when your body takes over your mind, and you actually apply life and death processes the way you would try and survive to the day-to-day pressures of what might go on inside of a medical practice, it doesn't work well. And that's what many people are suffering from. The habits we have are unconscious and repetitive, which that's the definition, the parameters for unconsciousness and being repetitive, or that's what a habit is. And so we can recognize things in other people. And the minute I help you or anybody in your practice pause and think about what they're seeing in somebody else, you can begin to open up your cognitive thought about what might be the right way to treat them. And so this whole discussion is about, in business, everything is about perceived identity, unless it is a true medical diagnosis, which I'm talking to a bunch of doctors. So in that area, to some extent, you do deal with life and death at times, but at work, we are really building our own identity. And that's really what we want to manage on a day-to-day basis. So what would we need to know about the mind? You probably all know a whole lot more about the mind than I do, but the basics is that the neocortex portion of the brain is where all of our cognitive thought happens. The limbic brain is where a majority of or maybe all of our emotions sit. And then the reptilian brain, which is a complex set of things, mainly the amygdala that sits at the top of your brainstem, that part of our brain is what triggers us that we're in danger. And when that fires, your amygdala has hijacked your body. And over time, society has simplified the language around this as fight or flight. I know you've all heard it, the fight or flight, but the actual mechanisms of what happens are much more thorough and deep than that. What it does is it creates a survival strategy as the way somebody's out there doing life, and you'll see it day to day in every aspect of business, especially in a medical practice. It's going to show up every day, and you don't want your people, and you don't want yourself to act in survival strategies day to day. That's just not a good way to build your career. There are 4 survival strategies that have basic strategies. There is what do beavers do? Beavers dictate to their environment. So what do birds do? They migrate away in business, largely away from responsibility or structure. What do buffalo do in the winter? They just bear down and they just tolerate. They just tolerate more and more and more. Sooner, maybe the mindset of this buffalo might be sooner or later it's going to be May, and I won't be dealing with this 40 below weather, or check out, I'm going to hibernate. And so those are the 4 survival strategies: dictate, migrate, tolerate, and hibernate. The 4 time frames these people tend to think in, the dictate strategy tends to think about the future. They're always trying to figure out what the future looks like, what the destination is going to be. They think 5 years in the future. The migrate strategy tends to think moment to moment. the buffalo, the tolerate strategy, or I'll say over tolerate strategy, they tend to think in 90-day windows because they think in terms of projects. How do we get from here to there? And then the hibernate strategy, they think in the past. And so a huge percentage of doctors, subject matter experts, are going to be in this strategy for survival, which means they look to the past. They tend to think in the past because there's an infinite amount of information in the past to review. And so that tends to make them hibernate and not make decisions. So we'll keep going. How these show up at work. Obviously, this is not a dermatology practice right here, but here we are on a little excursion. Your dermatology practice went out. You picked the wrong boat, I'll tell you that. When this happens, somebody's going to stand up and start telling people what to do. Somebody's going to take off and start swimming. Somebody's going to over tolerate and not do anything but rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic. Some people will hibernate. And so here's a little cheat sheet that'll give you an idea. The dictate strategy is looking for certainty, so you give them a plan. The migrate strategy, they're looking for freedom, so you give them choices. You don't put them in jobs that are redundant, that they have to do the same thing over and over. The tolerate strategy is all about stability. They tend not to want anything to change, and so you reinforce that we're going to get through this. And the hibernate strategy is all about security, that this will work. After you regain your brain, you just realize that business is a game for identity. You want to build your market force and you want to focus on the needs of others. We want to reduce friction first. Reducing friction is a process. These four, the dictate, the migrate, the tolerate, and the hibernate, coincide with the control, the influence, the power, and the authority. They tend to act like the director or the facilitator or the builder or the analyzer. The 20th century method of leadership is, I've got an idea, I'm going to go talk to the smartest people, we're going to come up with a pilot program, and then we're going to force everybody to do it. And so market force teaches people to find a way to move in a clockwise direction on the map. But most survival strategies have people moving counterclockwise. And so in a meeting, you'll notice you begin to understand who people are. There's a person that stands up and meets you when you walk in the door. They might be an influence, the moment-to-moment thinker, the relationship-driven person. There's a person that'll step to the end of the table because they believe they're in charge. They think they're the boss, whether they are or they're not. There's the people who are there early with all the data and the information. They're the analytical folks. They're the hibernation strategy. And then there's those who walk in and they will tell you, I have too much I have to do because that makes me late. And so that have to is a lie. Their brain is telling them they have to do all this stuff. They're probably not prioritized. I'm going to skip through some of these things, but because I'm running a little short on time. But the natural alliances you would see is the controls can think in the future and where are we going, and powers tend to think who's doing what are we doing. The influences are really good at thinking what's possible, and authorities are really good about providing reality to that, or what's provable. You'll begin to notice that, and I want to go back on something I think I said earlier, and that is, when you're in business, there's always something else going on here, and it's this dynamic of what is happening to people under pressure. When you hear people, when their yes over time means maybe, and their no equals no, you might begin to know how you would treat that person. When you think about the influence, their yes equals maybe, and their no equals maybe. The powers, their yes equals yes, and their no equals no. And the authorities, their yes equals yes, and their no equals maybe. A lot of this has to do with how they accomplish things. Controls think, or don't accomplish things. A lot of people think because they've had an idea. Controls think because they've had an idea that they've actually accomplished something. Influences tend to think because they've created a relationship, something's been done. Powers tend to think because they've replicated the same type of work day in and day out. And the hibernators tend to think because I perfected it, something's been done. Because I've analyzed it, something's been done. So you use all four. You're better at some of these traits than others. Your primary style is how you'll respond under pressure. And we don't want to act in survival strategies. And so that is how we get you wired for prosperity. We reduce friction first, and then we begin to work on how you would be more effective day to day. And I'm going to refer to the golden rule. The golden rule is treating others how you want to be treated. That's really not as relevant today as it used to be, because where this came from is, if I don't want you to steal my goat, or I don't want Brand to steal my goat, I shouldn't steal his goat. That's where the golden rule comes. But the platinum rule is learning how to treat others the way they want to be treated. And this is a system for understanding that way to reduce friction for other people. This is the first thing you're looking for. Trust is the most important thing in business. There's two components to it. Are you capable, or competence? And can I count on you? Will you do what you said you would do? And so controls and authorities tend to want competence first. So you don't want to talk to them at first about relationship. How'd you get into this business? How'd you become a doctor? You'd want to go strictly with your competence. Influences and powers want to know really about you as a person, and then later on they'll want to know whether you're competent. It's done in a different order. And so we go through, I'm going to fly through this. We go through some of this, paint the big picture if you're selling to a control. Sell the relationship and give people choices if you're selling to an influence. Provide a roadmap for how you're going to get things done, and make sure you focus on great results. And then if you're dealing with a perfectionist, you want to provide evidence of what you've done in the past, of your competence and how you've done things. And so moving clockwise, again, is where people tend to have conflicts, and conflicts happen when there's a break in the action. You know, our days don't work the way we normally want. So we want to really focus on, have a clear intention about what we're doing, instead of focusing on the break in the action, which leads to upset and judgments and cussing people out for doing things they shouldn't have done. That just makes you more like a gang inside your business. You'll see more judgmental language. You'll see a poor culture. Performative language, we teach you the anatomy of performative language, and that opens up new different actions, new possibilities. And so I'm about through here. Your survival strategy is designed to keep you alive. It's not designed to help. It's not designed to help you thrive. Teams need all of these styles, and moving clockwise creates prosperity. And in the event of a breakdown, you focus on the intention. You want to share and practice it. You want to invest in this training, use market force to bring the playground into your business. And that is what market force is. Now, I came about my business differently than most people, because most people are bankers for 30 years or doctors for 30 years. Then they become coaches. They don't have frameworks for how they do things, but they're great at being bankers and doctors. Because of my role at Colliers, I ended up with a lot of different frameworks. And so I've got about 62 different frameworks. I work on mindset, goal setting, core purpose. I help companies understand their principles and values. And then I teach market force. So I'm happy to talk to any of you about what you encounter in your business, or any of your people that lead your companies. I'm thrilled to have been given this opportunity to talk to you about the noble force, and my commitment to you is to give you your confident path forward. It's yours or your company's. We can't be completely sure of what's going to happen in the future, but we want a roadmap. Every business needs a roadmap, a playbook. We want to put you on a path, and we want you to take action and move, so we can adjust as we go. And I'm here to help you do that. And I look forward to meeting any of you if I get the opportunity.